Serious, folks who live in the deep wilderness or very rural areas, what is the scariest, most unsettling thing you've experienced out there? I spent 6 months living alone in a cabin near the end of a dirt road in central New Hampshire. Nearest neighbors were a quarter mile or so up or down the road. It's an area where people definitely keep to themselves. Had all sorts of animal visitors, bears on the porch, you name it, but never random people around. One morning, I went out to my car to go to work. It was spring, and we'd had a late frost. On the rear window of my truck, someone had written, "I watch you," with their finger in the frost. I never had an actual problem in the rest of my time there, but that freaked me the out. You should have written, "I know," as a deterrent. Even if you didn't know, that would have planted a seed in their mind that you know. They would either stop or change what they're doing. While they are changing what they are doing, they would be more likely to make a mistake because it is new to them. Unless they were a pro, then, well, I don't know. My dad lives way out in the country, on the edge of a small forest. Road is still gravel. Nearest town is a few miles away, and is basically a wide spot in the road. He never bothered to lock his door, or his car when he went into town. Until one day a group of masked robbers walked into his house, roughed him and my stepmom up, and took a bunch of stuff. My dad deals in antiques, so had a lot of stuff around that was worth money. He has since replaced the old wooden front door with a steel one, and they always lock up now. Lived with parents, but at the time was dog sitting, so it was just me and the dogs. In the middle of the night they wake up and look at the pair of doors leading to the wraparound deck, all glass, covered in curtains. They're doing the little boof thing that immediately wakes me up and I'm terrified. I can hear movement on the deck and the dogs are full on barking. I don't lock those doors, or any other door, because we live so rurally. I'm frozen with fear for a few moments, trying to think of some way to defend myself if someone comes through the doors. I immediately run to the kitchen, grab the biggest knife and stand in the shadows near the door. Absolutely shaking with fear, 20F at the time, with 911 ready to go on my phone in the other hand. Yeah, turns out my boyfriend was sneaking in, almost stabbed him and pissed myself. I was hanging out one day when suddenly I heard all this commotion and what sounded like a lot of people yelling or in pain, all in my front yard. Looked out the window, it was a herd of cows, 30% of them were no idea whose they were or where they came from. They left after about 2 hours. I travel a lot for work to the USA, so I ended up renting an apartment in a small village in the countryside. I hate staying at hotels. One day I finish work early, get back home, order in some food and just chill playing PlayStation in my room. At about 2 am I get woken up by a woman screaming bloody murder. I realize it's my housemate and she's screaming because she's in danger and something bad's happening. I run to her room and there was a man trying to rape her. We fought and he made it to the door. I ran after him but he got into a car and fled. We called the police and they eventually caught him thanks to the description I gave them of the car. Turns out he had been watching her with the intent of raping her. Her boyfriend works night shifts and he didn't count on me being home. Just to clarify, I rent an apartment with a couple of my friends who live there too. Because I had been in my room all night with the light off and my room faces the back of the house, which is facing the woods and inaccessible to passerbys, he thought she was home alone and decided to attack her. He had been wanted for a series of rapes on town and is in jail now. Not sure if the type of story you wanted, not scary or creepy in a supernatural way, but hearing her scream that way was the scariest thing I've experienced. Sorry for matting, I'm on my cell. Went for a late night walk up the hill behind my place so I could watch the stars. I foolishly turned down company because I really wanted some peace with my thoughts and to soak in the beauty on my own. There was basically nothing for miles in all directions and zero light pollution, so it was truly stunning and dark. I was out there for about 40 minutes when I eventually got a nervous feeling that raised all the hair on my arms and sent a surging chill up my back. I hauled ass back to the house like a kid runs up the basement stairs from an imaginary monster and slammed the door behind me. The next morning I found out a drifter down the road, maybe 3/4 of a mile away, was attacked by a mountain lion the same night. my parents do for the majority of the year. They are out in Nowhereville on a farm in Central America. Aside from all the snakes and the tarantulas that make their way into your house, probably the time someone broke in while they were sleeping and robbed them. They didn't wake up but found things stolen, including their firearms, in the morning. They upped their security like crazy after that. For me, when I first moved from the city into suburbia, into Suffolk County, the creepiest thing was when foxes scream. The first time I thought a woman was being murdered in the woods behind my house, but when I shone a flashlight, found a fox just sitting there shrieking its head off. I could understand then why in my culture, foxes are thought to take the form of women. That scared the hell out of me. This honestly wasn't very scary, more funny, but my uncle lives way up on the hillside in a really nice house. A few summers ago, he was grilling salmon on the back deck, with the back door and the front door open to get a cross breeze because it was really nice out. His wife was in the kitchen, which is next to the deck, and then a wall separates the kitchen from the living room, which is where the front door is. A black bear smelled the salmon and walked right into the living room. My uncle noticed after a minute and screamed at his wife to stay in the kitchen, and his yelling spooked the bear, who ran back outside, pooped on the doormat, and then left. Definitely scary but also hilarious. Just posted this in another thread, but I just saw this one and I thought I'd share it here too. Not sure if it fits completely, but anyway. 4 years ago, me and my best friend decided to go to her tiny house in the woods that her grandpa owned and stay for a few days. The place was completely isolated. The road was really far away and there were barely any houses around. When we used to take walks during daytime, the first house that we saw was 30 minutes away from the one we were currently staying in. Her grandpa's house was a one-story only. There was one tiny bathroom, the kitchen was in the living room area, and one bedroom. One night, I asked her to keep me company while I smoke a cigarette outside on the gazebo. She agreed, and before we went outside, we locked the front door even though the gazebo was right next to the house and we could easily see if someone tried to get inside. We stayed a little longer outside because we got carried away in our conversation when all of a sudden we hear something hit the roof of the gazebo loudly. It was so loud, it sounded like a body fell off the sky and onto the roof. We froze. None of us would even dare breathe. We just looked at each other. I know that my best friend in these type of situations goes into full panic mode, screaming, running, so before she even managed to scream I told her quietly to not make a sound and just grab her phone and go inside the house. We get up, walk away from the gazebo and to the front door, and I look up to see if there is something up there. Nothing. We get to the front door and guess what? It's open. Almost halfway open. At this point, my best friend starts jumping around and making sounds and tries to dial her grandpa. What the hell is that poor man even gonna do? It's a 2-hour drive from where he is. He didn't pick up at first, so I finally managed to convince my best friend to go inside and look around to see if someone's in the house. As I previously mentioned, the place is really small, so we managed to search the whole place in like a minute. There was nobody in the house. There's only one window in the house, which is in the bedroom, and it's high up and it was closed. Her grandpa finally called back. We told him what happened and he said that we probably didn't lock the front door properly, but he didn't mention anything about the loud thump on the roof of the gazebo. To this day, I still have no clue what that was. We didn't sleep the whole night and all of the lights in the house were on because we didn't dare to spend a second in the dark after what happened. Edit. I read some of your comments and I wanted to answer some of them and clarify things. No mountain lions here. Maybe some wolves and foxes, but it's extremely rare, and I also have never seen either of them outside with my own 2 eyes. As for tree branches, there wasn't anything on top of the roof, which is a straight horizontal roof. I mentioned this in one of my replies. It's not that high, so it can be easily checked, and no sound of anything hitting the ground afterwards. Also, for the people mentioning snow, it was the beginning of September. As for the people saying that it might have been a person trying to scare us, this is the thing that terrifies me the most, because around us was nothing but dark woods, and as I've mentioned previously, the place is really isolated. I would like a logical explanation for all of this, but the more I think about it and read your comments, the more terrified I am. Thanks for watching. Consider leaving a like if you enjoy and subscribe if you want more of my content.